In this learning target, we are going to take a standard form quadratic equation and transform it into vertex form. We're actually not going to use completing the square. We're going to use a different method that helped us when we graphed quadratic functions. So refresh that our standard form we've been looking a lot at is ax squared plus bx plus c, where your a is that leading coefficient, b is with x, and c is the constant at the end. You'll notice vertex form. We have a on the outside of parentheses x minus h squared plus k, where h and k is the vertex. We've actually seen this form before. When we were looking at transformations of parent functions, we noticed that the number on the inside with x moved our function left or right, and the number on the outside moved it up or down. The a value stretched or shrunk it. So the a value tells us a lot. Stretch or shrink tells us which way the graph should be opening. How we're going to take a standard form quadratic and transform it to vertex is by using what we did to graph quadratic functions. So to refresh, for example, let's say we had the quadratic y equals x squared plus 6x plus 8. And we were to graph this, so what we did is we knew the y-intercept was up here at 8. And then the next step, we had to find our axis of symmetry to find our middle. And how we found the axis of symmetry was by taking the opposite of b divided by 2a. If we did that here, we would take a negative 6 divided by 2 times, well, our a in front is 1. Our b was the 6. That's how we got the negative 6. 2 times 1 is 2, so if we take negative 6 divided by 2, we get negative 3. So that told us at negative 3 was our axis of symmetry. Where the importance comes from here and what we're going to be doing is remember that that x value we got from our axis of symmetry is the x value in our vertex. So how we found this x value was by taking the opposite of b divided by 2a. To find the y value, all we did is we took this opposite of b divided by 2a value, negative 3. To find the y value, we just plugged it into our x's. So if I did that, I would get negative 3 squared plus 6 times negative 3 plus 8. I would get a 9 minus 18 plus 8. If I put that all together, 9 minus 18 is negative 9. And plus 8, we get negative 1. So my y value in the vertex would be negative 1. How this is going to help us, this is my h and k value from below. We just found the vertex to this standard form. So then all we would need to do is plug that vertex into our form and plug in our a value. So that's what we're going to do for these problems. For example, in letter A, we have y equals x squared plus 6x minus 5. Our a value in front is just a 1. Our b is 6. Our c is negative 5. Again, our goal when we're done is we want our vertex form y equals a in front times x minus h squared plus k. So our main goal is we're going to find our vertex just like we did from above. So first step with finding the vertex, remember it falls on the axis of symmetry. So to find the x value of our vertex, or that h value, we're going to take the opposite of b divided by 2a. So that would give us the negative 6 divided by 2 times 1. We get 2 on the bottom. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So our x value, or h value in the vertex, is negative 3. If we want to find the y value, then we're going to take this negative 3, and we're going to substitute or plug it into the x's in our equation. So I would get y equals negative 3 squared plus 6 times negative 3 minus 5. Negative 3 squared is 9 minus 18 minus 5. I get a negative 9 minus 5, which gives me negative 14. So my y value here is negative 14. So what we just found is we just found our h and our k in our vertex form. So what we can do is start to write our vertex form. Y equals, I'm going to have x, it's minus h inside, which means I put opposite. So since I had a minus 3, I'm going to put plus 3 inside. All of that is squared. We use exactly what we got for our y value, so minus 14 on the outside. Now we still need this a value in front. Well, in our standard form, we already had the a value. Our a value is 1, so all we have to do is bring that a value down, and there's our final vertex form. Here's our vertex form, and here's our vertex. Those are the two things that we need to see when we're done. Let's go ahead and look at B. So it's in standard form. A is -2, B is 8, C is -3. So the very first thing that we want to do, since we're going to change this to vertex form, we want to find our vertex first so that we can just plug that into vertex form. Again, how we get the x value, or h, in our vertex form, we're going to take the opposite of b divided by 2a. Opposite of b is -8 divided by 2 times -2. If we multiply 2 times -2 on bottom, we get -4. So we're going to take -8 divided by 4, and we get 2. So there is our x value of the vertex. To find the y value, we're going to take this x and plug it into each x value to find the y of our vertex. So I'm going to have y equals, I have -2 in front. I'm replacing it with a positive 2 squared plus 8 times positive 2 minus 3. Remember, I have to do PEMDAS, so I have to do 2 squared first, which is 4, and then I can multiply everything together. So -2 and 4 gives me -8, 8 and 2 gives me 16, -8 plus 16 minus 3, I'm going to get 5. So there's my y value of my vertex. Here I just found my vertex. Now I need to write it in vertex form. So my vertex is going to be the h and k. Inside, I have the x value. That's my h, but opposite. So since it's a positive 2, I'm going to write -2, all that squared, and exactly what we have for our k value, or the y of our vertex. Last but not least, we need the a value here. So the a comes from my standard form up above. My a was -2. It's going to remain -2 in my standard form. And there is how we change standard form into vertex form. Last type of examples is now we want to write the equation in vertex form. We're not given standard form anymore. We're not changing it. Instead, we're given the vertex and another point on this graph. So again, our goal is to write the equation y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. If we remember, first thing we should be able to do is our vertex is that h and k value, always that part inside and outside. So if we started to write this, I know I should have x, 3 should be on the inside because that's the x value, and 2 should be on the outside. Remember that inside is always opposite, so it should be -3 and +2 on the outside. So far, here's where we got. I need to see if I need that a value. How we're going to do that is because we're given this additional point, x and y. We're going to substitute these x values, or -1 into x, and -2 into y, and then just do some algebra, solve an equation so that we can figure out what is this a value that we need here. So we're going to substitute those in. Y, we're replacing with -2. I want to find this a value, times x is -1 minus 3 squared plus 2. Now we do algebra, PEMDAS. So I have to do what's inside the parentheses first. -1 minus 3 gives me a -4. So I get -2 equals a times -4 squared plus 2. Then PEMDAS, I need to do the exponent. So I need to take -4 squared. That will give me a 16. And then we can go ahead and write that 16 in front of a. It means the same thing. A times 16, 16 times a, same thing. Plus 2. Now my goal is to find this a value, so now I'm solving this equation. So opposite operations. First thing I need to do is subtract this 2 over. When I do that, I will get a -4 equals 16 times a. Lastly, get a by itself, we need to divide by 16. So I need to take -4 divided by 16. That's going to give me a decimal. So what I want to do is simplify this fraction. Simplifying this fraction, I can take a 4 out of both. If I do that, I will get a -1 over a 4. There's my a value. So now since I have my a value, my final vertex form, I will put that a in its correct spot. So finally, my vertex form is y equals -1/4. And I just write what I had from the start, x minus 3 squared plus 2. Plug your vertex back in, and there is our final vertex form. We'll do example B the exact same way. So our goal is to write in vertex form. So y equals, we can already fill in our h and k. That's our vertex. Our vertex is always the h and k. The x value of the vertex always go inside with x opposite, so as +1. And on the outside, we need -2. again, our goal is we're trying to find what this a value is. So we're given another point, an xy pair, on this parabola, and we're going to plug in the x for the x and the y to the y. So we will get 13 equals a, that's what we're trying to find. Replace x with -4 plus 1 squared minus 2, and now we got to apply PEMDAS, order of operations. So we need to do the parentheses first. So -4 plus 1 will give me a -3. I have squared minus 2. Next up, I need to square -3. So -3 times -3 is a positive 9. So we can go ahead and write that out in front of the a, minus 2. Now we have simplified all of our operations. Final step is to get a by itself, solve this equation. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. That will give us 15 equals 9 times a. So it's being multiplied by 9. We're going to divide by 9. 15 divided by 9. I cannot divide and get a whole number, so we are going to simplify. I can divide both by 3. When we divide them both by 3, we will end up with 5/3 is my a value. So lastly, we are going to write it in vertex form. So I have y equals, my a value comes first, 5/3, times x with my vertex is going to be inside with my x value. The y value of the vertex will be on the outside. So I'll have +1 squared minus 2. And there is our vertex form.